Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Saturday live stream. Happy Saturday. We have my friends and co-hosts here for Dr. November, and I'm going to introduce you to everyone clockwise to me. And we have Farah from Bookstalgic,
Hello.
and we have Mark from Book Time with Elvis,
Hi.
Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads, and Randy Ray from the Literate Texan. And I am Jim. I'm
Hello,
Jim from Mystery Mayhem. How's everybody?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
I'm great.
Good. So what's everybody been up to this week? How about we start with we'll start with Greg and we'll go the other way around. How's that sound?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
I've had a pretty uneventful week. Just trying to read a lot and not pay attention to the news because it bunges me so much nowadays. So, but I have joined the new Twitter Blue Sky this morning.
Oh,
you can settle something for me there, Greg, because I know some people are calling it Blue Ski because there's no space. Is it Blue Ski or Blue Sky?
I have no idea.
I've
only seen
it. It's Blue Sky.
What?
Yeah, I think
it must be.
It's Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
I haven't heard of this.
It's the new Twitter, and it seems to be all the I don't want to get too political, but all the anti-Trump people are flooding to it. So.
Makes sense. So
what's your handle, Greg?
Same, Another Bibliophile Reads.
Perfect.
I have not made a post yet. I just joined, and I'm following some people that I know, and we'll get around to that later. So, we're talking about our just books you read. We're going to talk about books read later.
Let's just go around and see how everybody is, and then we'll come back and talk about the books we read.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing, Randy?
Well, if we want to talk about how I'm doing, I could take up the whole show.
Yeah.
Because y'all know I've got health problems.
Yeah.
But let me just say that having health problems has enabled me to read more books this year than this has been a huge reading year for me. I've read 110 books so far.
I heard on your
not short books. I'm not reading short books deliberately to try to crank up my numbers. I've read stuff like Terms of Endearment and 800-page biographies of Jimmy Carter. But when you're not doing anything but physical therapy and lying in hospital beds, man, you can get a lot of reading done. So it's been great.
That's good. Yeah.
There's drawbacks, but in terms of being able to get a lot of reading done, this has been a great year for me. I feel really good about the reading I've gotten done.
Yeah. How about yourself, Mark?
I'm getting over. I don't know. I had some kind of throat infection or something. I felt very swollen in this part of the neck for a couple of days, but it seemed to come and go. So, I was all right. I worked most of the week. I did have Thursday off. I had to take a sick day because there's nothing worse than an English teacher that can't actually speak. So, doing better. Reading wise, it's been a fairly good week for me, actually. If you saw my video earlier, I think you alluded to it, Jim.
Yeah.
Certainly that was a massive highlight. So I look forward to talking about that in a bit. But not too bad, I suppose. Now, anyway. So
you're. I got to talk to you about that Eric Ambler essay that you quoted.
Oh yeah.
I think I showed this last year, Dr. November, but I have this book edited by Eric Ambler, and I think he expanded on the essay that you quoted. You said that he wrote that in 1951.
1951,
This was an expanded essay that he wrote, I think, 1967, and it's similar to what you talked about, but he expanded on it. And this was post James Bond, so he references Bond and M and that kind of thing. So I thought that very interesting.
Yeah, I just came across it. It was at the end of the book I read, and I thought, it didn't really occur to me, how much of a dearth of good stuff there was prior to Ambler, I suppose, but also Le Carre and what's his name? Fleming. Thank you.
Fleming, yeah. So we have Farah from Bookstalgic on here for the very first time. I think this is your first live stream, Farah.
Yeah, the first live stream ever. I just was really hesitant to try it. I'm just a shy person, and the thought of it just, I don't know, I wasn't ready yet, but somehow you boozled me into doing this, Jim. I don't know how you did it, but yeah, I'm glad. Sometimes you just have to rip off the Band-Aid, and I think being in a bigger group is a little more comfortable than just doing like a live with one other person. So
Yeah.
thank you.
I agree. And you said it right. You have to rip off the Band-Aid. I think Mark was the first time he asked me to go on a live, and that was the first live I ever did. And I was scared to death. I still get scared to death coming on live streams. And
Yeah.
But you're right. It is easier with more people, and they can just fill in the gaps, and it's a much easier conversation, But
Yeah.
I'm glad you decided to come on.
I am too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've seen people who do live streams by themselves.
Yeah.
Now that is hard.
I've done that.
You know what's awkward is like when you're starting a live, you don't know how many people are watching yet. So it's like you're filling in the silence and then you're waiting for people to comment, but there's that little bit of a delay, like when people are typing. Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever get to that point, but
I don't think I will either. I'm not a very loquacious person.
Neither am I. I couldn't.
No, and I guess if that were the case, though, and there's no one on or not very many people on, you have to think about the people that are going to watch later.
yeah.
And then
right.
you can kind of fill in the gaps, I
Yeah.
guess. But right now we have
Cat.
Yeah.
what's that, Greg?
I said, "Yay for the cat."
Yeah. The cat's stuck in.
We have 8 people on right now, and Libro Paradiso commented, and hold on, I got to make this screen a little bigger. They say, I've read some Fleming books, but his style books aren't appealing. On the other hand, Peter O'Donnell's Modesty Blaze novels and strips, the comic strips, are superb. Yeah, I know with Fleming, people can take him or leave him. Ian Fleming, and he doesn't really translate well to current times because he's like a throwback to the 60s where things were a little less politically correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as for me, I mean, I haven't been doing much reading. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched my channel, but I was in a bit of a reading slump, and it just took me
Sorry for that.
No. I'm going to finish that book, Vanity Fair. Like
you have to now. You have such a nice edition.
Oh, it's beautiful, Mark. Here, I'll show you. My picture's so tiny on the screen here, but this is a beautiful edition, and it just makes me want to read it now. Start reading it again. But the artwork in it is by a gentleman named Robert Ball, and it just beautiful pen and ink drawings throughout the whole book. And this is from 1958. So, and it's not that I wasn't enjoying it, Mark. I was actually really enjoying it, but I had so many other things pull me away from it. And I just kind of lost momentum on it. So I really want to get back to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been it for me pretty much. So what's everybody been reading?
Where are we starting?
Well, we'll start with Greg. We'll go back counterclockwise, I guess.
I just have to get one book, so excuse me a second.
Okay.
I finished this the other day. This is MacArthur's Bloody Butchers. This is a military history written by our own Brian Bruce at Bookish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's I have not read a lot of military history before. And military history, I'm trying to say this, can be a little dry.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because it talks about the Company G, where they were, what they did, where they moved to. Sorry, baby. And it does not always involve the people. They're there because he's talking about his grandfather, or
Yeah.
no, not his grandfather, his uncle.
Yeah.
So
Family.
because he was there. But overall, I kind of liked it. There were some really nice, interesting stories in here about I guess it's not a huge spoiler that in Company G they basically attacked the hospital and killed everyone in the hospital because it was wartime and there were enemies there, and they became known as the Bloody Butchers after that. And then someone added MacArthur's Bloody Butchers. So that was kind of interesting. And I made a comment in my Kindle going like, what would people really think nowadays of attacking a hospital with enemy soldiers? We get a little bit of that in Gaza because there were Gazan agents in the hospitals and people were totally outraged at that.
Yeah.
So very different times.
It surprises me that in this day and age that this kind of stuff still goes on,
Mm-hmm.
but human nature.
It is, and it's wartime, so it's interesting if you're willing just to follow the troop movement. And there's some other nice. There's another one. One of the other men he's following described that they went to Hiroshima after the bomb dropped, and then walking around and seeing one of the human shadows on a wall.
Oh boy. So. Yeah, that would be disturbing.
Yeah. So
how soon after the bomb dropped did they go into Hiroshima?
Fairly. I mean, I don't remember the exact date, but obviously they were cleaning up. So
yeah.
And they were not. It was like they really weren't told about the radiation too much,
Yeah, I guess it was still kind of something that they didn't know too much.
It was brand new in warfare. So,
but you enjoyed the book.
I did. It's never going to be a people pleaser kind of book. I think just the way the book and the subject is, because it's military history, and you have to follow a lot of troop movements.
Yeah. Yeah, history in general can be dry if it's not written properly, Well,
it depends on what kind of there are some history books that really get into the times and people and really move well, but this is very factual.
And it depends on your interest too. I mean, if you're into military and war, I mean, you're going to eat it up. Like I read a lot of American Western, late 1800s, that kind of history. Like I love that stuff, and I'll just eat that up. But other people might not. They might not enjoy that. So it just depends on your interest, right?
It really does. I mean, because he's obviously done really good research on following this troop and where they were and what dates they were, what battles they fought in, what people were wounded in, so.
Yeah.
And I have to mention that I'm reading this right now. Philip K. Dick, I'm reading A Scanner Darkly. I'm actually rereading it. It's a science fiction novel. Maybe you call this sort of loosely espionage. Very loosely, because it follows an undercover drug agent infiltrating a drug distribution system. And it follows two main characters. One is the drug dealer and one's the police officer. But should I give the major spoiler? I think I won't give the major spoiler of the book. But
you could, as far as I'm concerned, you could.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Well, the two main characters are actually the same character.
Oh, that's a good one.
That was going to be my guess, that something was not what it seemed to be.
Right, because it's Philip K. Dick, and Philip K. Dick was quite the drug user himself,
Oh.
So the characters are so drugged out, and they're wearing this suit which disguises your identity. If he's watching the tapes of the drug user at his house, not knowing that he is watching himself.
Ooh.
So, okay, he's unaware of his double identity.
Right. At least part of the book. I mean, sooner or later in the book, because I know it because I've read the book before.
Yeah.
It's not really clear in the book that's what's happening yet, but Philip K. Dick is just a trip. When you read.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. I've never read him. So,
Me either.
no.
It's
You got
narrated.
plenty to choose from. He's prolific.
He wrote a lot. He's not a prose stylist, so don't go in for fancy writing style. But like
Well,
someone said, it's like Libro, Dick is good with mind games, and he is.
Yeah, we got a few comments here. Let me get to them before I get to Randy.
So I've read some other stuff too, but I'm not gonna tell you everything that I read last week because I've read 1,420 pages this week.
Oh boy.
Now,
Wow.
two of them were audiobooks, so
Nice to be retired, eh?
Yeah.
yeah.
I have no excuse. So Libro Paradisa says, fortunately, he never suffered from a reading slump. Difficulty is choosing what to read. I think that's almost part of it. You know, you almost have too much to choose from, and you just, okay, I just can't make a choice.
Big time.
Yeah. And Quack says, any Tolkien fans? I have been splurging in getting the recent box sets of the history of Middle Earth and can't wait to dive into them. I'm glad to see them being reprinted because I remember seeing them years ago on the bookshelf in hardcover. Like there's 12 volumes or something like that. I think there's a whole bunch, but I guess they're finally reprinting them in paperback volumes, which is nice to see.
Yeah. I have to say hi because that's my brother.
Oh,
I told him I was going to do my first live stream. But yeah, actually, I've never read Tolkien, but it's on. I really, really, really want to read it this Christmas season. So I have The Hobbit. So I really didn't make any kind of TBR for December. I'm just going to go like Lord of the Rings the whole way. Hopefully.
nice.
I have not finished Lord of the Rings either. I read the first two books in high school and never
See,
got around to finishing it.
Yeah, I read The Hobbit 2 years ago with Sean D. Stanfast, and then I think when I was like 13, I read The Fellowship of the Ring, but never read the others. But it's interesting, Farah, you say you're going to read it in December, but it does seem to be quite a Christmas read for people, and I often wonder if that's due to when, because if I remember rightly, the films would come out, I think, around late November, December time. So maybe that's got in people's minds that it's a kind of festive treat.
Yeah, that's true because it's not Christmassy at all. There's nothing in
Well, there are elves in it, I suppose.
But yeah, someone else said the same thing about always wanting to read it around the holidays. Yeah.
He also wrote the Father Christmas letters or something too, Tolkien, to his kids, and they were published. But I didn't read Tolkien. I tried to read it in high school, and I didn't. And I didn't read The Lord of the Rings till I was like in my 30s. I was working nighttime at a stockroom for a bus, Grand River Transit bus station, and I had all kinds of time on my hands. And that's when I finally sat down and I read through The Lord of the Rings. And I loved it. And I've read it once, reread it once since then. And The Hobbit, I love The Hobbit too. It's such a great book. But they're two kind of totally different vibes to them. Really, when you look at it, like The Hobbit is more for kids, and then Lord of the Rings was a much more complex and, for adults.
Yeah.
And Libro Paradiso says, recently reread Alan Moore's Watchmen, and the shadows on the wall of lovers is in a couple of panels. Whenever I hear or read the name Hiroshima, I think of Alan Resnais' Hiroshima. Sorry, I'm reading small here. Hiroshima Mon Amour film. I don't know that one.
I don't know it either.
No. Philip K. Dick is good with mind games. Libra Paradiso, with the exception of Howard, Moorcock, and Wolfe, I'm weak on fantasy and never read any Tolkien. Pullman's His Dark Materials, which like Wolfe blends fantasy and science fiction, I deeply enjoyed. Well, I'm a huge fan of Robert E. Howard and Michael Moorcock. Never read Gene Wolfe or Philip Pullman's books.
I just actually read his Dark Materials trilogy. I finished the last one this summer. It was really good. I loved it. It was one of those books that I think is geared towards not really middle grade. I wouldn't think my 12-year-old would really get it, but it was really good. Like, I feel like if you're an adult and you're reading it, you would really enjoy it, even though it probably wasn't written for adults.
Now,
it was good.
The Golden Compass was part of that, right?
Yeah. Yep. That was
Okay.
the first one.
Okay, I saw the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think the movie did it too much justice.
No, they never do, except for maybe Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Randy, how about yourself? What have you been reading this week?
Well, first of all, let's talk about Tolkien. I too am reading The Lord of the Rings for Christmas this year, so I'm really excited that I'm not the only one. And it's one I've always wanted to do as a Christmas read, and it is because I associate it with the holidays because that's when the movies were released. But I read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings when I was in grade school. I probably read The Lord of the Rings 6 times before I hit junior high school.
Wow.
What's like middle school now. But I was a nerd and I didn't read much else either. But I was obsessed with Tolkien then. And to tell you how things have changed, of course, I skipped all the songs and the poems when I was growing up reading it. I'm more likely to skip the prose now and just read the songs and the poems.
Oh, really?
But so I'm excited about that. And then in terms of other reading projects I've got going on, the National Book Awards are coming up on the 20th. And so there were 5 finalists for Novel of the Year or Fiction. 5, they're not necessarily novels, but I've got all 5 of them and have been reading those and have had differing experiences with them. I only have one left, and then I'm going to rank them in a video. But the one that the strongest recommendation, I'm sure everybody's heard of it, was James by Percival Everett.
I keep hearing about that.
Yeah, Huckleberry Finn from the perspective of Jim the Slave. And it's fantastic. And it got nominated for just about every literary award there is. There was also a book called All Fours, which I liked much less, but still liked. There was a collection of fantasy stories called Ghost Roots. They're all set in Nigeria. And then I can't remember the 4th book. The 5th book I'm on right now is called My Friends, and I'm really loving it. But yeah, I haven't had a bad experience reading any of these books for that were nominated for the National Book Awards.
Nice.
Cool.
But I also, you know what? I've got all 14 of Ian Fleming's James Bond books, which I also read. I read those in high school. My public library had all of them. But I'm halfway through Casino Royale, but Casino Royale is really, really difficult for me because there's a lot of French in it.
Yeah.
And I'm familiar with most casino gambling because of what I do for a living. You know, y'all probably don't know this, but I'm a freelance writer who specializes in writing about gambling and gambling destinations and gambling games. But Baccarat is the game that they play in the book Casino Royale. It's not Texas Hold'em. And it's Baccarat's just got all these crazy French sayings for various things, but it's not a game of skill. You know, the whole book is about how, or much of the book has to do with how, you know, Bond is going to beat the bad guy by outplaying him at Baccarat, but, you know, it's a coin toss. You know, there is no skill edge to Baccarat. So, but it's a little hard for me to understand, and it's honestly kind of dull. I'm hoping that the other James Bond books pick up. And I did read, I've read through, I'm about halfway through The Secret Agent by, what's the guy's name?
Joseph Conrad.
Yeah, I'm halfway through it, and it's interesting, and I like it. But there's that older spy who keeps picking on the one guy, and calling him fat. And it's like, why do you keep calling all these other secret agents fat, man? Chill out with the shaming.
He was supposed, like, he was his boss. He was the boss. He was calling her like a fat, lazy man or whatever. And it just went to show that he was just an asshole. He was a manager, so he's an asshole.
Total asshole. But yeah, it's a good book, and of course, it's also, you know, I'm trying to step into a little more classic literature, read some of the best stuff, you know, because the clock's ticking. Let's face it, I've only got so much reading time left. And so, you know, this is a nice segue into Heart of Darkness, which is also on my list of things.
Yeah.
And I want to read Heart of Darkness right before I watch Apocalypse Now, which is streaming on Criterion this month, but it's leaving on the 30th. So I kind of need to hustle on some of these things.
It's very thin. You'll get through it in a day. Probably.
Yeah, it's like 80 pages.
Well, yeah, I've got it here. I've got the Norton edition, which looks deceptively long, but I know that most of that is you know, critical articles and reviews and that sort of thing. So.
I'm very behind in my classics too.
Me too.
Well,
yeah,
pitifully behind. But I've got other reading projects for December lined up too. I've got another friend that I'm buddy reading the Chronicles of Narnia with, and my daughter and I are going to buddy read Little Big by John Crowley. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that.
I have it on my Kindle, but I have not read
Yeah,
it.
it's a fantasy novel. I've got a friend who's a librarian in Dallas, said it's her favorite book. But from what I've read part of it, and it's wonderful what I've read of it, but it's about an ordinary guy who marries what he thinks is an ordinary woman, but it turns out she's not ordinary at all. She's a fairy. And he winds up involved in both worlds because both worlds coexist here, the fairyland and our world. And it's really big and thick, and it doesn't look like it. You know, it looks like it's just a regular sized novel, but it's really dense. So I don't know if I'm going to finish all of these, but of course I also want to get in my Charles Dickens. You know, I read A Christmas Carol every year, and then I've got a couple of anthologies, A Literary Christmas and then Best American Christmas Stories, and I always dip into those too. Also, we've talked about this before, Jim, Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
There's no real Christmas Sherlock Holmes story in the canon other than the Blue Carbuncle, which just happens to be set on Christmas. It's not a part of the plot at all. But I've got Edward D. Hawk's collection of Sherlock Holmes pastiches.
Yeah.
At least 3 of those 10 stories are about Christmas.
I love Sherlock Holmes Christmas stories. There's 2 anthologies behind me here, Holmes for the Holidays and More Holmes for the Holidays. And I love them. Yeah.
Well, and, the Edward D. Hawk story was incredible. I think it was called The Adventure of the Christmas Guest. And spoiler alert, I'm going to spoil this, so cover your ears. But the Klein is Lewis Carroll.
Yeah.
Allison, in this particular one. So it's really good. And Moriarty appears in almost all of Edward D. Hawk's stories, too.
I love his stories, man.
He's such a terrific writer.
Yeah.
Just
So, Randy, how does Moriarty appear? I mean, obviously, I read the 7% Solution last year where he sort of faked Moriarty's death as well. I remember.
Right.
So is that the same idea with these other ones?
Well, these books are, of course, in the canon, okay, you hear about Moriarty a couple of times, but Holmes doesn't actually meet him until the final problem when they both die going over the falls.
Right.
And then they both fake their own deaths. But the stories in the Edward D. Hawk are set before the final problem.
Okay.
And so Moriarty is just this shadowy character that Holmes is hearing about. He still isn't face to face with him.
All right.
And I don't think Watson ever meets him in the canon. He just writes about him, if I'm not mistaken. He never actually meets him.
Yeah. One could write about that.
Yeah, but in hundreds of pastiches out there, they've met many, many times. But
right, yeah. Well, it's funny. I love the 7% Solution, by the way. That was the first Sherlock Holmes pastiche novel I ever read, and I was obsessed with Sherlock Holmes growing up too.
Me too.
We had one of the big annotated editions at the public library that I had checked out constantly.
Yeah, those are lovely.
But yeah, the 7% Solution blew my mind because I didn't know you could do that.
I think that's the first one I ever read.
Write the history like that. I just wasn't aware that was something you could do. But here's Nicholas Meyer doing it, man.
Yeah, such a good book.
It's a terrific book. Yeah, it was a terrific movie at the time. I haven't seen the movie as an adult, but I loved it as a kid.
Oh God, yeah, that's going back. That was in the 70s, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the funny thing is, Nicholas Meyer's written a lot of Sherlock Holmes pastiches over the course of 50 or 60 years now.
Yeah.
because I think it just published his sixth one, maybe.
Yeah, just recently came out. I forget the name of it, but yeah. Yep.
They're always, the only thing, and this is kind of, I don't like this, but everybody else seems to. They always want to drop in celebrities from the time period. They want to make sure that, if well, hell, I mean, it's the 1880s. Maybe Sherlock Holmes ought to team up with an elderly Charles Dickens, or, it's George Shaw.
Yeah, for Nicholas Meyer, though, that was kind of his thing. That was kind of every story. That was his thing.
Yeah. Have you guys read any of the Solar Ponds books by August Derleth?
Yeah. I bought them in paperback years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. August Derleth went to Conan Doyle and asked him for permission to carry on the Sherlock Holmes stories. And Doyle said, that's flattering, but no. And so Derleth started writing stories about a detective named Solar Ponds. And he's got his sidekick and his landlady. And, there's an analog to everybody from the Sherlock Holmes characters in Solar Ponds with a slightly different name.
Yeah. And he lived at 7B Parade Street.
Right. And he's got a landlady named Mrs. Hudson, I think.
Yeah.
And he's got a sidekick, Dr. Parker, Lyndon Parker. But yeah, those are terrific too. But the only thing that's weird about those is they're really inconsistent in terms of tone. Sometimes August Derleth will write something where there is a supernatural element to it, or something will be in jest. There's a lot of fun making in some of them, but others are just straight up detective stories too.
Don't forget that Basil Copper finished the series.
Well, there was another author after Basil Copper too. They're still going on.
Those ones I don't have.
Yeah, I don't have them, but yeah, it changed dramatically after Basil Copper took over too. But I prefer the August Derleth ones, and the Derleth Sherlock Holmes pastiches are much better than his Cthulhu stuff.
Yeah,
his pastiches of H.P. Lovecraft are nowhere near as good as his pastiches of Arthur Conan Doyle.
I just read for October an anthology of The Haunter in the Dark, and there was 2 of those, H.P. Lovecraft and August Derleth, and they were probably the worst stories in the entire anthology. Wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
So Lou says, "Hey y'all, I have only read The Hobbit. Need to continue on with the books." Hi Lou, welcome.
Hey Lou.
And we have Liber Paradiso again. Says, "Wow, 6 times impressive. Reminds me of an interview I saw with Shelby Foote, who reread Proust's entire remembrance of things past after finishing a project, multiple readings." And he also says Heart of Darkness is my top 10. I have not read it. I want to read that. I just imagined a scenario where Moriarty meets his match, Paddington. Paddington Bear.
Marvelous.
Now,
So
I read The Hobbit earlier this year as part of Spring into Adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Hobbit fit right into Spring into Adventure really well. I read it right after The Princess Bride, which was another one of the adventure novels I read for Spring into Adventure. Spring into Adventure was a lot of fun. We're doing it again this coming year, aren't we?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mark?
I hope so. It was one of my favorite events last year. I really enjoyed reading, was it She? Yeah, She. God, that was terrific. So good.
We got to pick out one for next year.
Definitely. Have to think of that.
So Mark, you've been reading a lot of Eric Ambler this last week.
Oh my God, I think I found a new favorite author.
Yeah.
I don't know. I loved it. Now I don't know if I'd finished it by last week's live. Probably not. But the first one I finished was The Mask of Demetrius, which was great. It was excellent. It really was, and it was quite funny because I knew there was a film, but I didn't know who was in it, and I was reading the book, and I was thinking, there's a character in here. Has anyone read it?
Yeah, I read Journey into Fear years ago. That's
right.
So
there's a character.
I haven't, but I read it.
There's a character in here called Mr. Peters, and I'm reading it, and I'm thinking, the best person to play this character would be Sidney Greenstreet. It would be amazing. Oh. And then I sat down the other night to watch the film, and it's starring Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet as Mr. Peters, and I was like, oh my God, You know?
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
perfect. Yeah. Absolutely perfect. It was great fun. Really, really good. I'll probably talk more about it on a video. I made a video today about the second Ambler book that I read. I just finished it yesterday, and it's Epitaph for a Spy. And this was, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's not very big. Yeah, it's the one. Have you started it, Greg? Or
This is for Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday. Whenever I finish Philip K. Dick.
yeah, because I think I read it on the Kindle, and I've got your version, Greg, and it's got that essay. You might not have seen the video I put out earlier, but I start off reading an essay, and I think it's at the end of your book, Greg. It's not in this one, so I didn't say that to people if they go looking for it. It's actually not in this version by Penguin. It's Black Lizard, isn't it? The ones you've got, Greg?
No, I have Vintage Crime. That is Black Lizard.
Yeah.
I don't have the emergence of the detective story in the 19th century.
Yeah, that's what I was reading from.
Okay, 51.
Yeah. And it was great. It was for me a corker, I can say, because it just pulled me in. It really did. Had that feeling of like what do you call it? What's the term for when people are kind of stuck together somewhere and there's been a murder and they have to solve? It's not locked room, is it?
Closed.
Something like that, yeah. Farah. It had that kind of feeling, of a Christie where everybody's at a country house, but instead it takes place in a bed and breakfast in the south of France, and there's actually no murder. It's actually some act of espionage has been committed, and he has to track it down. But he's just a language teacher, right? So maybe that's why I liked him. It was just great fun, really, thoroughly recommend him. And I'm actually halfway through my third one that I did a lot of reading today called Cause for Alarm. And that's also so far proving to be very good. And I'm also reading, not Eric Ambler, but also has potential to hit corker status. And it's Michael Gilbert's Game Without Rules. And it's basically a collection of short stories. I think there's maybe 9 or 10. I don't know exactly. And it's about two retired in inverted commas agents. They live in this sleepy village in Kent, in the south of England. They don't live together. They live at opposite ends of the village. One lives with his dog, and the other lives with his old aunt, in the village rectory. And every so often they get like a coded message from their bank. And the bank, of course, is a front for some kind of government agency, and it's basically an agency that take on all the jobs that are too dirty for the likes of MI5 or MI6, and they're assassins basically. So when they uncover a Soviet cell, they send these two old codgers out to bump them off. And it's just very dark humor. It's very fun, extremely enjoyable, and it's just quite funny because they're very civilized, sitting there playing backgammon, and the next thing it's like they have no compunction about shooting a woman in the back of the head because she spies for Russia.
Oh boy.
But it's excellent also. And maybe that's it. I have been not dipping in as much as I wanted to into the big book of espionage, but I hope to do a bit more of that next week. And people mentioned December plans. I've been tossing up about reading Anna Karenina, possibly, but I'm also doing this Ghost Stories Christmas thing as well.
Yeah.
And there's a group read of one of Elizabeth Gaskell's. I think it's The Old Nurse's Tale. So I'll definitely be reading that, and then probably reading a few tales from this one as well. Which you see, I bit the bullet, Jim, and gave him another chance and picked this up. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Who's
Yeah.
the author in that one?
Sorry?
You held up. I can't see the author.
That's Otto Penzler's
Otto
big book.
Penzler collection.
Okay.
So the authors like Joyce Carol Oates, Rudyard Kipling, Isaac Asimov, James McCrae, Saki, Oscar Wilde, H.R.F. Keating, Willa Cather, and many, many more. So,
Nice.
I think that's it for me. Maybe. apart from The Secret Agent, but I guess we'll talk about that in a bit. So.
I'll show some comments here. Lou said she bought one of our Holmes t-shirts.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Speaking of Holmes, my Holmes shirt arrived, Jim. It's fantastic. Thank you, Lou. That's awesome. It didn't take long then, because I think we just talked about it last week. So that was quick. Well, I'm glad you like it, Lou. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
You can retire now, Jim.
You buy that Porsche I've had my eye on.
Yeah.
Genre Book says, I'm reading a book which has Holmes in it at the moment, The Pursuit of the Houseboat by John Kendrick Bangs. Yeah, that's an oldie. Doyle loved it. And Libra Producer said, no exit. Not
That's
too sure.
Jean-Paul Sartre's play. I don't know where that relates in.
And Lou says shipping was so fast. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm up in Canada. I ordered a Mystery and Mayhem shirt. It took a while. It didn't take long, actually, but I had to pay duty and tax on it.
Your own shirt.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a surprise. I didn't expect that. Yeah. And I know, Mark, I don't know about your European shipping. Like, I'm not sure about that. I tried to look into it, but I can't really find out if they ship overseas.
It's a lottery as well with these customs things, and sometimes it can be half as much again as the object you bought, right? So
yeah.
But I mean, you're only how far are you from the border? An hour?
Maybe about an hour. Yeah.
You need to get yourself a PO box down there, and then you could just pop down, and you could have worn your shirt back, and nobody would have known.
True. Yeah. People keep telling me that. To get a PO box for books and stuff like that. Because I remember years ago, I bought a whole bunch of markers from Japan, like Copic markers, and I spent a fortune for them. And then to come across, I had to spend almost as much as what I spent for the damn things. This was years ago, but yeah.
Now a PO box I think is $64 for 6 months.
Oh. It's not that, for the amount of stuff I order, it's probably not that important, but
right.
Just a principle of the thing. My own damn shirt that I made. Anyway, Farrah, how about yourself? What did you read this last week?
Well, this last week I've just been really busy with work and overtime, and it's funny because my kids finally had a break in their sports, so all the fall sports ended, and I was like, yes. Like I can have some evenings back, but then work got really busy with like overtime and stuff. But I am reading a few things for Dr. November. So I have started The Spy and the Traitor, which I think some of you guys have read this, right?
I read that.
Yeah, Ben McIntyre. I found out about this. One of the YouTubers I subscribed to she was raving about it. She was like, it was so good. So I'm only like a little bit into that, but it's really good. It's like, I really like the writing, the way that he's telling the story. It's kind of like that narrative nonfiction style where it doesn't feel really dry. So I'm only really at the part where, we've learned about his life, his childhood, like his whole family's in the KGB. And, it's like, I just think about things like, geez, like what were those dinner conversations like, but just having all that secrecy, like even between the two brothers, not really being able to talk about what was going on. And so I'm at the point where he's gone off to school and he had that really good friend from, it was Czechoslovakia back then. And then the invasion of the Russians into the Prague Spring. And he's just starting to question his motives and what he really believes. And, but he's kind of like trapped in the KGB now. So it's good. It's really good. And I really didn't have a huge knowledge or understanding of the KGB before this, beyond like season 4 of Stranger Things. So it's just been fun to learn more about that and that part of history that I really didn't, I don't know if I really would have sought out these type of books before. So it's been fun. It's really good. I really like the writing. And then the other one that I'm also starting, and I'm only a little bit into this one, is A Woman of No Importance. And this is by Sonia Purnell. It's the untold story of the American spy who helped win World War II. So this one is another nonfiction. It's about an American spy named what was her name? Victoria Hall or Virginia Hall, sorry. And it tells a story about her and how she ended up working for, what did she do? She started out, it was back in the 30s, and she has to try to navigate through life. Her parents want her to get married. She just doesn't want that kind of lifestyle. So she goes and studies abroad in France and falls in love with the culture there and the freedoms that those people have over there. And she wants to be a diplomat. She's kind of studying to try to get into that line of work. Unfortunately, she has a freak accident and she accidentally shoots herself in the foot. So she's overseas. I think she's actually living in Turkey at the time, and she has to get her leg amputated. Just a below the knee amputation.
Oh,
back
boy.
then, it was just the medical treatment for that kind of thing was awful. So she has a setback. She has to try to figure out how to walk with this new prosthetic leg, which is wooden. It's like 80 pounds. And her plans to enter into the career that she wants is really just knocked right down. Everybody just views her disability. So I think what happens is that she eventually somehow gets involved in espionage, and she, with all the political climate going on in Europe at the time, she sort of gets into it. So I'm just at the part where she's still, right after her operation and everything. But that's really good too. It's very, very interesting. And it's a female spy. So that's something we'll hear a ton about.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jim, you're gonna have to remove me because I can't see or hear Randy right now.
Oh, you got to go. Okay. Yeah. Hold on.
You can try to.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Whoops.
Bye, Greg.
Yeah.
Let me try that again. There.
Is Greg
Sorry,
back?
I still can't see Randy.
I can see you.
I'm just gonna drop out completely and log back in. That seems to work.
Okay, Greg.
You should drop out and log back in. He can't even hear me now.
So
I'm gonna have to go soon anyway.
Oh yeah.
Poor Greg. Poor Greg. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
got somebody coming by. I've got someone bringing me some art supplies. So
Oh, art supplies.
yes.
Really? For
Yep. Another late in life hobby.
Oh, I love art supplies.
Well, I just had one of my roommates move out, and so we're going to turn one of these bedrooms into a little arts and crafts studio. Me and my remaining roommate are going to share it. I already have an office and stuff. So sorry, I logged out and logged back in and disrupted the entire flow of the.
It's
No,
all
no.
right.
How are you now, Greg?
I'm fine. For
Can
whatever
you see me now?
is that whoever logs in after me, I can't see or hear them.
That's weird.
Huh.
And
Weird.
then if
That
I
is weird.
log out and log back in, it's all fine.
So
We're
going
still
back,
doing Proust in January, aren't we, Greg?
What?
We're still doing Proust in January, right?
Oh, we're doing Proust. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to make a repost my video this afternoon or tomorrow.
I was waiting until December 1st.
No,
But-
not to start, but just to remind people that Proust is being read.
I'm excited about Proust in January.
Have you read him before?
I have read part of the first volume, maybe 100 pages.
I've read only the
So
first one.
not very much. Not very much. Well, I'm excited about it. And you know what? Well, I'll tell you what inspired me to bring it up was I was reading a novel by Larry McMurtry earlier this year called Dwayne's Depressed, which is one of the worst titles I've ever heard for a novel, but the novel itself was terrific. But he begins seeing a therapist in the novel and he develops a crush on her and he wants to go out with her and she won't agree to see him until he has read In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust. And
Huh.
she tells him you can read it in a year. You just need to read 5 or 10 pages a day. And he does it.
Oh yeah, that's right, Andy. You are responsible for the year of reading Proust. You were the one that
That's
kicked
right.
him off.
is that I take it it's a big book then, Randy.
It's it's considered one of the longest novels ever written. I think it's 3 times the size of The Lord of the Rings.
It's
Wow.
3,200 pages, 3,400 pages, something like that.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really long, but the idea is you read 5 or 10 pages a day every day for a year. I guess it's 10 pages a day, isn't it?
Actually, I have a schedule, and it comes out in the edition that I use like 10 to 12 pages a day.
I've got the box set that that everybody thinks looks really flimsy.
I don't know.
It's a box set of 7 volumes in paperback.
I have the Kindle. I have the 2 English translations of Proust on Kindle. So.
I'm really excited about this one. I'm going to throw myself into this one with vigor.
That's good. I've never read them.
Well, here's your chance.
Yeah, I got too many other things to read.
I've got a buddy who wants to read Infinite Jest.
No.
And I don't think I can do Infinite Jest. I don't think I can do Infinite Jest and Proust at the same time.
No.
I have Infinite Jest. Here it is.
Yeah, I keep a copy behind me.
Everybody's got it on their shelf. That's all.
Well, I want Steve Donahue to see that I've got it on the shelf behind me.
Oh, doesn't Steve Donahue hate this book?
Yes,
Apparently.
which
He
is why I
thinks
keep
it's
it
a good
prominently
book.
displayed behind me in my office where I normally video.
I have to ask though, Farah, just what happened
What happened with
with her leg? So, like, how did she become a spy with one leg?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get to that part yet.
Oh, you haven't got there yet. You have to come back next week and tell us.
How many legs do you need to be a spy, Mark?
I don't know. I'm having visions now.
At least
She has-
one.
I'm having visions now that she has like a machine gun fixture that she can put on there, a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
She's smuggling messages in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just at the part where she's trying to figure out how to walk on this thing. I mean, the prosthetics back then are horrific, and she covers it really well. So I think the average person doesn't realize. I don't know. I mean, she just had such a tenacity. She had such a bravery. She was mad. I think she was just mad at people not taking her seriously and not letting her into the governmental work that she wanted to do. And yeah, she just kind of
I put it on my wish list on my Kindle, so I'm just waiting for the price to drop or get it on audio. Sounds
I
great.
think I saw that book at the bookstore the other day, if I remember correctly. It's just new, right, Farah? Just fairly new?
I had never heard about it. Let me see when it was written. I've never heard anybody talk about it. It was just one of those books around 2019, so it's not
relatively new.
Oh, yeah.
The best bartender I ever had only had one leg. And he would tell you that he was the second best one-legged bartender in Dallas. And he would not tell you who the best one-legged bartender in Dallas was because he didn't want to lose any clients. A true story.
Well, as a spy, if people knew that they had one leg, that'd be the last person they'd suspect to be a spy.
right.
So that's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
brilliant.
like the title. She was of no importance. She blended in. She learned like 5 different languages. She just really was able. I mean, besides the wooden leg, she could disguise herself pretty well, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. Sometimes you don't notice. I mean, maybe you just think they've got a limp. I mean,
Yeah.
a friend of mine here, his father has one leg, and it took me a year to realize. I was just sitting there like at a barbecue. I used to go there very regularly, and I'm just sitting out there, and I'm kind of looking at him. I'm thinking, what? It doesn't look. It looks like he's got a what do you call it? Prosthetic. And then I said to his cousin, I said, you did. And he's like, yeah, you lost it, 10 years ago or whatever. And I'm like, oh, never knew, never noticed.
All right, gang, I got to go.
Okay, Randy.
Okay.
But thank y'all for having me on, as usual. I'm always leaving early for these things, I think.
Oh, no. Thanks for spending part of your Saturday with us.
Bye, Randy.
I'll be in touch with all of you this week.
Definitely.
Sounds good.
Take it easy, buddy.
All right. And it was nice to meet you, Farah.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, Randy. So, yeah, that's Ben McIntyre. You too have read Ben McIntyre. I've never read him either.
By Ben McIntyre.
I've read 4 or 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good.
I remember you talking about her, the book Agent Sonia last year.
I read that for Dr. November last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one sounds really good. I was looking at that one.
But I started reading this one just today, like a page or two, and I literally just started it before I came on here. But Mark, I think you said you were interested in reading this.
I was until I got sucked into Eric Ambler's universe. Yeah.
Like I love the first this book is an attempt to reconstruct as accurately as possible the infamous exploits of a group of spies who served with the secret intelligence organization known as British Security Coordination, which set up shop in America during World War II, and remains one of the most controversial and probably one of the most successful covert action campaigns in the annals of espionage.
Oh, cool.
And that's Roald Dahl, Ian Fleming, Ernest Cuneo, and this guy, I keep forgetting his name. But anyway, I'm looking forward to reading that. So that's going to be my week's read this next week. And I should go through it fairly quick. But yeah, and I read still kind of occult detective October, kind of, The Black Angel by John Connolly. So it's kind of an occult detective character. He's a private eye. And it's very like if you think of the Dresden Files, it's very far out. It's very fantasy oriented. It's a little far out, but this character is kind of very much set much more realistically, and deals more with demonic kind of stuff. So I really enjoy that, and that's the first one of his I've ever read, and I'm probably going to pick up more from him.
I read the first book in his series,
The Charlie Parker series.
I'd have to look it up. I remember reading it and liking it, but never going for another book by the same author. So it must not be a huge impression.
Well, there's a lot of point of view back and forth, which kind of throws me off, because with a PI novel, you're used to the first person narrative. And part of that is when it's dealing with the main character, he's talking in the first person, but then it'll keep jumping to third person and talking about events that happen out of his purview. And it that throws me off a little bit. But, once you get used to that fact, it's not too bad, actually. But it might be a little padded out. But, yeah, so far, so good. We lost Mark.
I think he just turned off his camera.
But, yeah. Other than that, I haven't been doing
I'm coming
too much.
back. Just 1 second. Sorry.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, that multiple point of view can be hit or miss for me too. Growing up, I feel like I always read a lot of just that single point of view, first person point of view. And then it wasn't until I really got back into reading a few years ago where I started reading different types of books. And yeah, sometimes that multiple point of view can get a little tricky.
I think it can be done really well in the right book.
Yeah, definitely.
There's one that I'm scheduled to read. It's called it's The Book of Skulls by Robert Silverberg. And it is essentially the story of 4 students in New York City. And one of the students finds a reference to a cult that's probably out in New Mexico. And they say it's an immortality cult, but you have to apply in 4s. And the rule is one person will commit suicide and one person will commit a murder. And the other 2 will be granted immortality.
Ooh.
And the story has 4 narrators of all the 4 students that go back and forth. They move the timeline with different narrators. So you say, okay, what's gonna happen here? Is one guy gonna kill himself? Is one guy gonna get murdered? Will they be granted immortality? So it's really well done that way.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you have to drive the others to. So the guy who has to commit a murder, he doesn't have to commit the murder within the 4 people, obviously.
No.
Oh, okay.
You have to murder one of the 4.
Oh, yeah. That makes it worse. So everybody wants the immortality.
Yeah. So that means there's only going to be 1 left.
No, 2.
Oh, 2. Yeah, because the guy who committed the murder is still alive.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. And you have to maybe drive the other guy to commit suicide, or the other person to commit suicide.
Right.
Yeah, but if you drive them, it becomes
There's
murder.
only going to be 1 left, I thought.
No, because there's 4 people. 1 commits suicide, 1 commits a murder.
1 dies, 1 kills another one. Okay.
But Mark had a good point. If you drive somebody to suicide, is that murder? Does that make you a murderer?
Well, you'd have to read the book and determine. I mean, there's probably I just thought of one case where totally off the storyline of Robert Silverberg is that you could be the murderer and then kill yourself.
Then there'll be 3 people left.
Right. And then it wouldn't work, I guess.
Yeah, so yeah.
I know. No, but for points of view, it's a really good book. Just how he brings all those points of view together.
What's it called? I missed it because I had to pop out.
The Book of Skulls.
The Book of Skulls. Okay.
Did you finish it already? Or you're reading it?
Oh, I've read it before a couple times, but I want to reread it again because it's Robert Silverberg is one of the most famous science fiction authors of all time.
Yeah.
And a lot of critics says, is this book science fiction? You have to read the book to understand why that question comes out. Is it science fiction? So it's a good one.
I know
Science fiction. Sorry, go ahead, Farah.
Oh, I was just saying, I guess we'll only know if we read it.
You might read it and ask yourself, is it science fiction? And that's what makes a good book, because there are questions, and you can get a couple people sitting in a room and talk about it, and you may disagree.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've not seen the end yet, Libra Paradise, so don't spoil anything, please.
The Americans FX series about spies in America was excellent. The ending I found quite affecting. Is that a new show, Mark?
No, I think it's about 10 years ago. It's about 2 KGB sleeper agents who live, they get married and they live in America in the 80s, late 70s, 80s. And they have a family and they just live a normal life. They run a travel company, but at night they're out doing work for the KGB. And then suddenly they end up with a new neighbor, and the new neighbor actually works for the FBI counterintelligence thing. And it's good. It's very good. Very well done.
So you're in the middle of watching it?
Yeah, I think I'm 3 seasons in.
Is that
very good?
That's the one with the girl who was in Felicity.
Kerry Russell?
Yeah. Blonde hair, curly. Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah.
We just finished we're still watching the 3rd season of The Lincoln Lawyer. Michael Connelly's The Lincoln Lawyer. Good show on Netflix. Lou's saying bye, Randy, and Libro Paradiso.
Oh yes, definitely.
Stevenson has an interesting short story called The Suicide Club. People who are unable to take their own life join this club, and at a dinner party, members pick out the name of their victim. Wow.
Ooh.
It's in the New Arabian Nights collection as well, I think. So
okay,
cool. Yeah, I've heard of the story. I didn't know what it was about. But yeah, that's it for comments. We don't have many people on.
Only I got a notification that Sean is also live at the same time, and I think somebody else is as well. So we kind of had to spread our audience, probably. So
was Sean on our Dr. November's last year? He wasn't he?
He was last year, yeah. But this year he's doing according to the notification I got, it's to do with Clifford Simak. So,
oh yeah, he loves Clifford Simak.
He does.
His favorite author, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like I'll be Eric Ambler obsessed by the end of this month. So
you were saying, yeah, and you loved the Inspector Maigret stories when you were reading.
I love those too, actually. Yeah, I mean, this year I've discovered, to my I can't speak. Well-established authors, but anew for me. Yeah, so I've discovered them for myself, and George Simeon has been great. Not just Maigret, but the other 2 books of his I read, I really enjoyed. And as I say, with Ambler as well.
Maigret books have you read?
I've read 12, 13 Maigret books, maybe, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I just devoured them. They're
short,
all under 200 pages. Yeah.
No, I've read The Train.
Yeah, that's great.
And either the Dirty Snow or The Snow Was Dirty.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The first time I read Dirty Snow, I didn't like it, but the second time I did. That was.
Was that a Maigret story?
No, it's criminal underground in occupied Paris during World War II.
Oh yeah. See, I love finding an old author. Then you know, if you like him, you can just grab all his stuff. You know, you don't have to wait for the next one to come out.
That's
You
true.
can just go snag them all at the bookstore if you find them. I love that.
Well, I mean, that's quite. I think with Ambler, he seems quite modern. I mean, he's writing these in the 30s, but you know, he's very. I don't know. He's got quite a modern style to him. I think that's why I quite like it.
Yeah.
When you think of some of the other things that are coming out around the same time, he seems quite different. So I don't know, really enjoyable. Just trying to see when he was living.
Well,
It was the early 20th century.
he edited this anthology 1969, To Catch a Spy, and that was edited by Eric Ambler, and he did the introduction to it. Like I said before we started, that's an expansion of the essay that you read on your video this morning. It goes on for about 10 pages or so.
Well, it's probably looking at the authors there. Looking at the authors, can you hold it up again?
Yeah.
He chooses his Buck and Morm. He mentions Morm and Buchan in that essay, right? As being among the ones he likes. So
and Compton Mackenzie, I think
Mackenzie's an interesting one. Graham Greene, of course. I want to reread The Quiet American. Actually, I might try and fit that in. I love that book.
But that's the one set in Vietnam, right?
Yeah. It's a good film. Steve poo-poos it, but I thought the film was pretty good.
Is that the one with Brendan Fraser?
Yeah, Brendan Fraser and Michael Caine.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that about discovering an older author, because I just read for the first time Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Yeah, I read it during October, and I loved it. I couldn't believe how good that book was. You know, the writing style was a little bit different when I first started it, but as you get into the story, and that's a book that I really only heard about from BookTube. I think I heard it from Cliff Stark Gems. He did.
Yeah.
He was talking about it, and I always I have a whole list now of like all the BookTuber recommendations. But yeah, now it just makes me want to read the other ones that he's done. Like
I love that. I think that's the first one I read of his too. Was that Something Wicked This Way Comes?
Yeah,
I love that.
It surprised me. It was a very different story than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I only read it last year as well. I read it with Carrie from Very Literary Carrie, and then we went on to read The Illustrated Man.
Oh yeah, he's a character, like a spinoff, kind of, right?
Yeah, but it's bizarre because we didn't realize it at the time, because obviously she lives in the US and I live here, and our two editions were different. We had different stories in them.
Really?
The UK one and the US one has different stories.
Yeah, that's weird.
Not all different, but
was it a different order or is it totally different?
No. A couple are missing, some were added, but yeah.
Because I've heard some people made comments that Fahrenheit 451 over time has been boulderized a lot, especially in American editions, and you don't know what you're going to get when you pick it up.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get like Paul Anderson's The Broken Sword. There was a version that was uncensored, and I'm still trying to find that copy. I have 2 copies of that, and each copy has the censored version. And I hate when that happens, and then it's so difficult to find the version that you want to read the way it was originally intended.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I mean, I have a copy. I think I got a copy on Kindle on sale. Broken Sword?
I think it was The Broken Sword. Yeah. Really famous fantasy story. I mean, he's great. I love his work.
Yeah, that's such a bummer when you can't find the original. It's
and you think in this day and age, you could at least find a digital copy somewhere.
Yeah, somebody would have.
Well, that's what I'm checking right now for my copy of The Broken. I'm pretty sure Michael K. Vaughan did a really strong review of something by Paul Anderson.
Yeah, they keep beating me to the good.
It was like 99 cents.
Yeah.
And now I have to look it up.
Yeah, he's a good writer, though. I like his stuff. But again, me as a collector, I'd much rather have the book. Yeah.
Well, it's even like trying to find those old DVDs of Star Wars before they threw in all the CGI.
Yeah.
And they changed, like they put what's his face in there, and the spirit scene. They put Hayden Christian Anderson's image in over.
And how many times has he gone in and changed those movies?
Yeah.
Like a few times. But yeah, to find the original version of Star Wars from 1977, almost impossible.
Yeah.
To do. Unless you had it already.
Die-hard collectors probably have those.
So, Jim, how do you know which edition of the Broken Sword you have?
Oh God, I'd have to go pull it out now. It's been so long.
I have my Kindle version, but
I'd have to go find them on my shelf, and I'd be gone for an hour. You wouldn't see me again for the afternoon.
And what was changed? Do you know?
I'm not sure. But there's a version that's I don't know if it was a matter of censored or one that somebody else went in, and I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
but I know
published 2014.
The uncensored version.
No, I don't know. This is my version on my Kindle.
Oh God, no! This book goes back a ways.
54 was the original publication date.
54.
54.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we got more comments here. Libro Paradiso is commenting a lot, which is good.
I know my sister's watching too. She just sent me a screenshot. I was like,
oh,
God,
that's good. You got a built-in audience.
Yeah.
Libro Paradiso. Simac wrote my second dog story. Favorite dog story. City. Yeah. My favorite is Ellison's A Boy and His Dog.
I like A Boy and His Dog.
Thanks. Me too. Yeah. Ellison,
look at you having table service, Jim.
Yeah. Yeah. Fresh coffee.
How did you order it? Did she kind of peep around the corner and go like, and you went
and asked me? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My tea is empty or almost.
Tea. Yeah.
Tea.
And he says, my second favorite dog story. Genre Books says, gotta go. Happy reading, everyone.
Well, he's probably gone.
Yeah, he's probably gone. Bradbury is enchanting. Yeah, I love Ray Bradbury.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I think he started out in Weird Tales, if I'm not mistaken. Green Rex, The Conscience. Oh, Alan's here.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, guys, stopping by to say hi. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, me too.
And Libro Paradiso Kaleidoscope, a story in Illustrated Man about doomed astronauts in space with hours to live and no hope of salvation. Yeah.
I remember that one. I think I got it right. It's like astronauts floating in space.
Yeah.
And someone said they did a stage production of that.
Oh.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
And that was Ray Bradbury, yeah.
Ray Bradbury. But it's curious. I mean, it's curious that there's different editions of the Illustrated Man.
Yeah. Was it Mark? Mark was saying too that I think it was Mark that there was two different editions, or maybe it was Gareth. I'm thinking Gareth. He has a version that's different than the American version, I think.
What was that?
Illustrated Man.
I don't know. I did talk about it when I read it. But there are, I remember looking it up. I'm looking it up again because it does tell you
that there's two extra stories in the American version or something like that.
Yeah. There we go. The British edition, first published in 1952, omits the Rocket Man, the Fire Balloons, the Exiles, and the Concrete Mixer, but it adds Usher 2 from the Martian Chronicles and the Playground. So it cuts out 1, 2, 3, 4, but puts in 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. Yeah. So,
and I imagine for copyright reasons, probably would be the obvious answer, I guess, on that.
But it's weird because in 1997, Avon Books, it says And in 2001, they omitted the fire balloons and added the illustrated man to the end of the book. Well, why would you have it called The Illustrated Man if the story wasn't there to begin with? That's
Well, there
bizarre.
is no story called The Illustrated Man. That's the
thing. The man who
the glue, the
The framing device. It's a framing device.
But there must be a story because they just said here they added it.
Maybe he wrote a story
published by Avon Books in 1997 and William Morris in 2001 omit the fire balloons and add the illustrated man to the end of the book. The illustrated man, an overweight carnival worker, is given a second chance as a tattooed man and visits a strange woman who applies tattoos over his entire body. Blah 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 blah.
Okay, wait a second. Now I got to look it up on my Kindle to see what my
There was a mini series based on that back in the 70s, I think. It had Rod Steiger, I think, in it. And it also included the Martian Chronicles in with it too, I think.
Well, the stories were definitely subject to some kind of Ray Bradbury's theater or something, because I remember watching recently, probably after I read it on YouTube, the first story from the book, The Veld, about the room.
Yeah, that's the best story of the book.
The tiger, the lion, and all that. Yeah, and the kids.
Yeah,
that's the best story.
Yeah, it's like the first one as well.
Yeah.
God, it's been years since I read that, but I remember that.
Yeah.
So, what was the screenshot your sister sent to you, Farah?
Oh,
were we all making funny faces?
Yeah, I didn't even look at it really too closely, but yeah, it was just just a picture of all of us.
Oh, there you go.
She was probably saying, who's that supremely charming English chap at the bottom right? Along with those two old grandpas.
Yeah.
The Illustrated Man is the last story in my Kindle edition.
So you've got an English edition?
Well, I don't know.
Have you got Usher 2? Sorry, have you got the Rocket Man, the Fire Balloons, the Exiles, the Concrete Mixer?
I have the Exiles and the Concrete Mixer. What's the one they cut?
They cut. These were the ones cut from the British edition. So you've got the US edition.
Okay.
Have you got the Playground and Usher 2?
I don't see Usher 2 or the Playground.
So there you go.
Well, it's not surprising that I have the US edition.
No, it's not, because you live there.
I'm awfully lacking in science fiction books on my shelf. I mean, I guess if you could categorize Ray Bradbury as science fiction, I don't know if I'd peg him in that hole.
He touched mystery, science fiction, and horror, and maybe mainstream fiction as well.
Yeah. And Something Wicked This Way Comes would be regarded as horror fantasy, maybe?
It's usually called horror.
Yeah.
Not too scary, though. It really wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It was creepy, but it wasn't anything scary.
Little creepy, yeah, from what I remember of. It's been a long time since I read it.
Yeah. I also read for the first time Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't really like it. I really like these types of books, and I read Dracula for the first time last year, Bram Stoker, and I loved it. You know, people were like, "Oh, it's boring, the pacing, blah 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 blah." I really liked it. Frankenstein was good though. I mean, the whole idea I really liked. It was just, I don't know what it was.
Did you go in expecting like a horror novel, like the film?
No, I didn't, because I knew that it was going to be different, and I knew it was going to be really the monster part of Frankenstein was really going to be the most interesting part. But I think I don't know. I guess I couldn't suspend my disbelief that he was that well spoken and that well read.
That quickly.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll be honest. I went in totally blind. So I think maybe if I had heard people talking about it a little bit more and talking about the amazing symbolism in it, and I mean, Mary Shelley just being so young when she wrote it. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
That she was able to come up with that at that age.
And in like a night or so, wasn't it? Like, I mean, I know she touched it up for.
She
Whatever,
took
but-
more than a night to write that, but she had the.
There's another version though.
Was
There's
this-
an earlier
wasn't it a
version.
story that they were telling at night in the
Yeah,
storm.
it was a ghost story challenge.
Uh,
Again, Michael K. Vaughan has an edition of her original manuscript,
Yeah.
and then it shows Percy Shelley's corrections.
Yeah. That's
Apparently, the earlier version is better than the
the
rewritten.
1818, yeah.
You know, people debate that all the time.
Yeah.
And
I think I did the 1818 version. Yeah, I think I didn't like Victor. I couldn't.
No one likes Victor.
Yeah, we're not supposed to like him. I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's part of it too. I think that this is going to be the type of book that I think I'll like it more when I hear people talking about it.
Mhm.
Like I have to watch Pat's video, book chat with Pat. She taught that book. And
Oh,
so-
I haven't seen. Did I watch her one on Teaching Frankenstein? I might have. I can't remember.
It's been so long since I read that. You know,
Yeah.
and like with Dracula too. That's Michael K. Vaughan's favorite book, Dracula.
yeah,
But
I
I
like
mean,
that one a lot. That's a good one.
Yeah. But again, it's one I haven't read in a long time.
Have you watched that? What We Do in the Shadows?
The comedy?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I really enjoy that. It's good fun. It's very silly, but it's a funny take on vampires, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Dracula series on Netflix, I keep wanting to watch. Apparently, it's really good. I think it's on Netflix. I don't know if you guys know that. It's like a mini series. It's been out for a couple of years now, I think.
What's it called?
Just Dracula.
Oh,
It's not the BBC one, is it? That they did
Oh, could be a BBC one.
like over Christmas. It's 3 episodes. It's just a mini series, like a real mini series of like 3
Yeah,
1 hour episodes.
That might be the one. And
I
apparently,
watched it. It was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the
the
guy
best-
who plays Dracula kind of threw me off.
But the best bit was the I've forgotten the name of it. The Dementor, is it? They did the whole episode on the Dementor, the ship that carries Dracula.
Oh, the Demeter.
Oh, yeah.
What
the
is it?
Demeter. The Demeter. Or the
Demeter.
Demeter.
What did I say? Dementor.
Dementor.
Potter.
I don't remember the ship name.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. They just made a movie based on just the time on the ship.
Ooh.
They're just the voyage of the Demeter, I think was called. I think, but it was pretty good. And it was just like the whole movie was just that little space of time on the ship and what happened to the people on the ship.
You could easily do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's enough
Yeah.
space where you could go to
Yeah.
town with that. Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It
Speaking of,
had. What's that?
oh no, go ahead.
I just said it had the guy who, the actor who played in Game of Thrones, the Onion guy. I forget his name now, but he did a really good job.
Oh, yeah.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to ask if any of you guys had seen the film version of The Secret Agent.
The one with Bob Hoskins.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
one was the most recent, 1996 maybe. That one.
No.
I just watched it must have been a mini series from the BBC, but it was the 1992 version with David Suchet was Burlock. And
Oh.
it was okay. It was weird to see him as Burlock though, because I'm used to seeing him as Poirot.
Poirot. Yeah.
But he did a good job. He had this like just dead. He just looked like so dead inside. I was like, oh, Poirot.
Really?
It was
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting take on it.
What did you think of him as Poirot?
Good.
Pretty good.
Oh yeah, it was good.
What do you think of Branagh as Poirot?
I don't know him.
Kenneth
Kenneth
Branagh?
Branagh? You haven't seen the film? The
Oh
new
no,
films?
I haven't seen that. No, I haven't seen it. No.
They were good movies. I don't think he made a good Poirot, but the first two movies were good. I can't say as I enjoyed the last one too much.
So the Venice one.
Yeah,
No, I didn't see that.
it was so far removed from the book. It was just so different.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And then what about Peter Ustinov as Hercule Poirot? in those old movies from the 70s.
Well, I want to like them because I've met him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he was the chancellor of my university, so I was extremely lucky to shake his hand and get my degree from him, and also listen to him give the I don't know what you call it, the speech where he talks about stuff. Yeah, it was great.
He was a keynote speaker.
Well, yeah, but he was, as the chancellor as well, of course. He gave the main address and everything, and we got to go up and shake his hand. And I remember thinking, because I've always been a bit of a lover of older films and things, and I don't know if some of my classmates probably barely knew who he was, but I remember thinking, as I shook his hand, thinking, Jesus Christ, what hands have these shaken? What other hands have these shaken over the years? So yeah. And he died shortly after that, sadly. Nothing to do with meeting me. But, it was quite funny because he was replaced actually by an American. He was replaced by Bill Bryson as chancellor of my university. So
wow.
So I didn't get to meet him because I'd already left, of course. But
Bill Bryson,
like
Bill Bryson, Walk in the Woods.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't mind him as Poirot. He was a little over the top, but he was amicable. Yeah. I liked him as Poirot.
What about Miss Marples?
I haven't seen her yet. I know I'm gonna love her. I haven't read any of the Marples yet. I'm saving them. Yeah. I like her.
My favorite was the. You've seen any of the series or films of hers, or?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
I haven't. No.
All right.
No, I know who the actresses you're talking about, though.
Well, I don't know, because there's two newer ones, and I don't like them at all. But I like one from the 1960s.
Yeah.
Margaret Rutherford, brilliant. Although they're kind of comedic, they are done as a kind of comedy. But Joan Hickson in the 80s did a great job.
Helen Hayes played her in a movie.
Yeah.
But apparently she didn't do a real good job.
No. There's the mirror cracked, I think, isn't it? The mirror cracked from side to side.
Yeah, she did maybe two of them, maybe.
No, Joan Hickson was wonderful.
So Lou says, I read The Martian, and that's about the extent of my sci-fi reading. I'm way out of my league with you all. Hey, I'm not up on my sci-fi reading either. Lee Paradiso, Frankenstein is a 19th century dysfunctional father-son relationship.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yep. That's what I mean. I think I just need to dig a little deeper with that book, and I'll appreciate it more.
Yeah. Herzog's Nosferatu is my favorite Dracula film.
Yeah.
Suchet is Perot. He did a great job as Poirot. Love, Death on the Nile, Evil Under the Sun with Peter Ustinov. Yeah, we just watched them recently, my wife and I, and they were really good. I enjoyed them. Little dated, but I thought they were well done. Joan Hickson is my favorite Marple, but I do enjoy the movies with Margaret Rutherford. Sorry, I adore Christie. I don't blame you, Lou.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason why she's still on the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. There should be Eric Ambler on everybody's shelf, to be honest. I don't know why, he's not, frankly.
Well, I mean,
I've never heard of him before this.
I still see Eric Ambler in the bookstores.
I don't see him in the Barnes and Noble near where I live.
No. I see tons of Agatha Christie. I know I've seen some Eric Ambler on the shelves, but yeah.
Well, the thing is, the Barnes and Noble where I live is not a very well stocked or deep store. It's got the big space, but it's wide aisles and very popular, brand new titles is what they focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how ours is too.
Our store too. All I know is when I go in looking for a specific book, they never have it.
Nope.
And they say, oh, well, we can order it for you. No, why would I order through you?
Buy it online.
Yeah. I came into the bookstore to find it so I could grab it today. But they concentrate now on gift stuff, blankets and candles and everything else, and it takes up half the store.
Yeah.
But You guys, you want to call it now? It's an hour and a half
Yeah, an
in.
hour and a half in.
Yeah, we can head to the green room for
Yeah.
refreshments and a chit
But-
chat.
I appreciate you guys spending your Saturday with me. It's been fun.
Yeah,
It's a
thank
good
you
way to
so
spend
much.
I guess it's Saturday afternoon now.
Saturday afternoon. Okay, so yeah, we'll cut it off there, everyone. Thanks,
All right.
everybody, and we'll see you next week, maybe, quite
Okay.
possibly.
Next
All
week.
right. Take care, everyone.
Take
All right.
care.
Bye.
Bye bye.